Out of pity, she saved a fainted slave, without imagining he was the most brutal from the quarters. Claire Miller never imagined her life would change completely on a stifling March afternoon when she found a man passed out near the horse fence on the ranch where she worked as a veterinarian. His trembling hands and thin body, covered in torn clothes, awakened her immediate compassion. But when she discovered who he really was, she realized she had saved the man most feared by the farm workers of the entire Des Moines region. Silas Harrison carried a dark reputation that preceded him like a dark cloud wherever he went to work. The sun beat down mercilessly on the lands of St. Sarah's Ranch that afternoon as Claire was returning from a routine visit to the calf barn. At 28, she had grown accustomed to the harshness of farm work, but her sensitivity never diminished in the face of others' suffering. When she saw that motionless body near the fence, her medical instinct spoke louder than any precaution. "My God, what happened to you?" she murmured as she knelt beside the stranger. The man appeared to be about 35, with dark hair stuck to his face by sweat, his sunburned skin revealing years of heavy work under the harsh weather. His clothes were in tatters, and she noticed small cuts on his hands, as if he had walked a long way without protection. Claire checked his pulse and felt it was weak but regular. His breathing was shallow and his skin was too hot. Severe dehydration, she diagnosed mentally. With difficulty, she managed to wake him enough to take small sips of water from her bottle. "Easy, you're safe now. I need to get you to a shady spot," she said in a soft voice. The man slowly opened his eyes, revealing a confused and distrustful gaze. He tried to pull away from her, but had no strength. "No, don't touch me," he grumbled hoarsely. "You're fainting from weakness." "When was the last time you ate anything?" asked Claire, ignoring his resistance. He didn't answer, just stared at her with a mixture of suspicion and resignation. Claire decided she couldn't leave him there. With great effort, she managed to help him up and took him to her small house at the back of the property, where she had lived alone since accepting the job on the ranch. The simple three-room house had become her refuge over the last 2 years. She had him lie down on the small living room sofa and brought more water, along with a plate with the leftovers from her lunch. "What's your name?" she asked, as she placed a damp towel on his forehead. "Silas," he answered after a long hesitation, his eyes never ceasing to watch her with distrust. "I'm Claire. I work as a veterinarian here on the ranch. You were passed out there. How long has it been since you ate?" Silas looked away. She noticed he was ashamed of his own situation, but his stubbornness still made him resist the help. "I don't need your pity," he murmured. "It's not pity, it's humanity," Claire replied firmly. "Now eat this food before I call Dr. Miller to take a look at you." The mention of the doctor made Silas visibly tense. She noticed his reaction and decided not to press the matter for now. Slowly he began to eat, chewing each bite as if it were the most precious food in the world. Over the next 3 days, Claire cared for Silas in her home. She brought food hidden from the main ranch kitchen and made sure he stayed properly hydrated. She noticed he avoided talking about himself and always seemed alert, like a wild animal ready to flee at the slightest sign of danger. On the 3rd day, while Claire was at work, her neighbor Barney knocked on her door. Silas, who was still recovering, answered without thinking of the consequences. "Who are you? What are you doing in Claire's house?" asked Barney suspiciously. She helped me when I fell ill," replied Silas, realizing too late that he had made a mistake. Barney studied his face for a few seconds before his eyes widened with recognition and fear. "You're Silas Harrison. What are you doing here?" he exclaimed, taking a step back. Before Silas could answer, Barney was already walking away quickly. In less than 2 hours, the news had spread among the farm workers. When Claire returned from work that afternoon, she found Silas packing his worn-out backpack. "Where do you think you're going?" she asked. "I'd better leave. Your neighbor recognized me. Soon the whole farm will know you're hiding me here," he explained without looking her in the eye. "And why would that be a problem?" Silas stopped packing his things and stared at her in disbelief. "You really don't know who I am, do you?" "I know you're Silas, who was passed out from hunger and thirst, and who seems to be a decent person beneath all that suspicion. replied Claire, crossing her arms. People say I'm dangerous, that I cause trouble wherever I go, that it's better to keep your distance from me, he said, his voice carrying years of pain and rejection. And what do you say about that? For the first time since she'd met him, Silas genuinely hesitated before answering. I say that sometimes people are afraid of what they don't understand. Claire felt there was much more behind that simple answer. She decided she wouldn't let him leave without at least understanding what was going on. Stay for dinner, then you can decide if you want to leave or not, she proposed. Silas reluctantly agreed. During the meal, Claire noticed how he ate slowly, savoring every bite as if he never knew when the next one would come. There was a strange elegance in his movements, an intelligence in his eyes that contrasted with the stories she was beginning to hear about him. Tell me about your work, she asked. I work where I'm accepted. Usually not for long, he replied bitterly. Why? Because people prefer to believe stories rather than know the truth. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Claire realized she wouldn't get direct answers from him that night. She decided to find out the truth by other means. The next day, during the lunch break, she sought out some of the farm's older workers. Mrs. Hattie, do you know a man named Silas Harrison? She asked the cook, a 60-year-old woman who had worked there for decades. Hattie's face changed immediately. Child, why are you asking about that man? She said, looking around as if Silas might appear at any moment. Just curious. I heard the folks talking. That man is a plague, Claire. Wherever he goes, misfortune follows. He's worked at least 5 farms around here and always left trouble behind, Hattie explained in a low voice. What kind of trouble? Fights, broken equipment, other workers quitting because they're afraid of him. At St. Jude's farm, they say he hit the foreman and destroyed an entire crop in a fit of rage, the cook recounted, shaking her head. Did you see that happen? I didn't need to see. Everyone knows. The owner of St. Jude's himself, Mr. Sterling, tells anyone who will listen. Claire felt a knot in her stomach. Was it possible she had been completely wrong about Silas? She decided to look for more information before drawing conclusions. That afternoon, she discreetly spoke with other employees. They all had similar stories to tell about Silas Harrison. Some were more specific than others, but all painted the picture of a violent and unstable man. He's got the strength of an ox and the temper of a rattlesnake, said Slim, one of the most respected ranch hands at the farm. I saw him take down 3 men by himself in a fight in town 2 years back. What started the fight? Asked Claire. Don't recall the details, but I know he always stirs up trouble wherever he goes. When Claire returned home that night, she found Silas tidying up the small herb garden she kept near the kitchen. He had pulled the weeds and arranged the plants so they would get better sunlight. You didn't have to do that, she said, observing the careful work he had done. Your plants were suffering. The mint needs better drainage and the aloe is getting too much water, he explained, wiping the dirt from his hands. Claire was surprised by his knowledge of plants. It wasn't something she would expect from someone described as violent and destructive. Where did you learn about gardening? Here and there. When you live a long time, depending on the land, you learn to observe what it needs, he replied, avoiding going into detail. During dinner, Claire wrestled with the confusion she felt. On one side, she had the alarming stories she heard during the day. On the other, she observed a man who tended to her plants with gentleness and ate in respectful silence at her table. Silas, I need to ask you something, she finally said. He stopped eating and looked at her with that cautious expression she already knew well. People say you've caused a lot of trouble at other farms. Is it true? Silas put his fork down on the plate and sighed deeply. Depends on what you call trouble. Tell me what really happened. Do you really want to know? Because once you know, you'll ask me to leave like all the others. Tell me anyway. Silas looked out the window into the darkness outside, as if seeking courage in the shadows. I was born in an orphanage in Ames. I was adopted at 7 by a family that wanted hands to work, not a son to love. I learned early that if you don't stand up for yourself, everyone will walk all over you. He paused, his hands trembling slightly as he continued. When I turned 15, I ran away and started working on farms. At first, I was just a scrawny kid everyone could push around. I got beat up a lot until I decided I wouldn't take it anymore. And then you started fighting back? I started showing I wasn't a defenseless kid anymore. Maybe sometimes I went too far, but I never fought without a reason. It was always defense. Claire listened to his version, but she still had doubts. The stories she'd heard were too detailed to be just exaggerations. And St. Jude's farm? I was told you destroyed an entire crop. Silas's face closed off completely. Who told you that? Does it matter? Is it true? It's true the crop was destroyed. It's not true it was without reason. What was the reason? Silas stood up abruptly from the table. I don't want to talk about this now. Maybe it's better if I leave in the morning after all. Claire realized she had touched a deep wound, but her curiosity was piqued. There was something in his reaction that didn't fit the image of an impulsive destroyer. You're not going anywhere, at least not before you properly explain to me what happened. Why is this so important to you? He asked, turning to face her. Because I believe there's more to this story than people are telling, and because I care about what happens to you. The sincerity in her voice made Silas hesitate. He had never met anyone who showed genuine interest in his well-being without jumping to conclusions. You don't really know me, Claire. If you knew everything I've done, you might think differently. Maybe, but maybe not. The only way to find out is for you to tell me the truth. Silas sat back down, but remained tense. The St. Jude's farm plantation, I didn't destroy it out of anger or malice. It was after 3 months of working without receiving a cent of my pay. Mr. Sterling always had excuses to delay payment. Claire listened in silence, noticing he was choosing his words carefully. When I finally went to collect, he said I had broken some equipment and that my pay would be docked. Equipment that was already broken when I got there, but I had no way to prove it. And then you destroyed the plantation. Then I took a scythe and cut exactly the amount of corn that equaled my back pay. I told him if he wouldn't pay me in cash, he'd pay me in product. Silas's version was very different from what Claire had heard. She began to understand that there might be other sides to all those stories she'd been told. And the fights? Slim told me he saw you take down 3 men by yourself. They were 3 men who decided to teach me a lesson for demanding my pay. I was just defending myself. Claire studied his face for signs of a lie, but found none. There was a deep sadness in his eyes, the mark of someone who had suffered injustices repeatedly. Why did you never tell your side to anyone? Who would believe me? I'm just another uneducated farmhand against respected landowners. Their word always carries more weight than mine. That night Claire lay in bed thinking about the conversation. There was something in the way Silas spoke that sounded too honest to be a lie, but she also couldn't completely ignore the stories she had heard. The next day she made a decision. During lunch she looked for Mr. Brooks, the manager of St. Sarah's ranch. Mr. Brooks, do you know the reputation of a man named Silas Harrison? I sure do. You'd better stay away from him, Claire. That man is nothing but trouble. Have you ever worked with him personally? No, but I know people who have. Mr. Sterling from St. Jude's told me all about the problems he caused over there. And have you ever heard Silas's version of what happened, Mr. Brooks seemed surprised by the question. Why listen to a troublemaker's version? Decent folks have already told me everything I need to know about him. Claire realized that, just as she had initially done, everyone was judging Silas based on only one side of the story. She decided she needed to find out the truth for herself. That afternoon, she made up an excuse to visit town and went to St. Jude's farm. She knew some workers there from the veterinary work she occasionally did in the area. Mrs. Mabel, can I talk to you for a minute? She asked the foreman's wife, who was hanging laundry on the line. Of course, dear. Come in, let's have some coffee. During the conversation, Claire carefully steered the topic. How's the work around here? Still having trouble finding good workers? Oh dear, don't get me started. My husband complains it's getting harder and harder to find people who want to work properly. There are too many lazybones around. I heard you had problems with a man named Silas Harrison. Mrs. Mabel's face closed off. That man was a curse here. My husband still has nightmares because of him. What exactly did he do? Fighting, destruction, disrespect. One day, out of nowhere, he took a scythe and destroyed a section of the crop. Then he had the nerve to say he was collecting his pay. He wasn't getting paid on time. Mrs. Mabel hesitated for a moment. Look, I know my husband sometimes delays payments when things are tight, but that doesn't give anyone the right to destroy someone else's property. How long had his pay been delayed? I don't know. A few months, maybe. But he could have waited like everyone else does. Claire began to realize that Silas's version of events was being confirmed. She decided to also speak with other workers from St. Jude's farm. Mr. Wayne, did you know Silas when he worked here? Wayne, a middle-aged man who worked as a cowboy, looked around before answering. I did. Why are you asking? Just curious. I've heard contradictory stories about him. Silas wasn't a bad man, no. Hard worker, knew a lot about plants and animals. The problem is he wouldn't accept being treated like a slave. How so? Here at St. Jude's, if you complain about working conditions or demand your rights, you become an enemy right away. Silas did that and paid the price. And the story about the crop? Wayne lowered his voice even more. He went 3 months without getting paid. When he went to collect, the boss said he'd deduct for equipment he didn't even break. So he got angry and cut the corn equivalent to his wages. I even thought it was too little. And the fight he had with 3 men. They were the boss's henchmen who went after him to teach him a lesson. He was just defending himself. I saw the whole thing. The conversation with Wayne completely confirmed Silas's version. Claire felt ashamed for having doubted him and decided she needed to make amends. When she returned home that afternoon, she found Silas organizing the small shed where she kept her veterinary tools. He had cleaned and arranged everything more efficiently. Found out what you wanted to know? He asked, without looking at her, continuing his work. How do you know I went to investigate your story? Because it's what any sensible person would do, and by the way you're looking at me, you discovered that maybe I'm not the monster they painted me as. Claire approached him. Silas, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have doubted you. He stopped what he was doing and looked at her. Yes, you should. You don't know me. It was right to seek the truth before trusting blindly. Now that I know the truth, I want you to stay. If you want, I can talk to Mr. Brooks to see if he would give you a work opportunity here. Silas shook his head. It won't work. As soon as your boss hears my story, he'll send me away. What if I vouch for him that you're a good worker? Your word might not be enough. People prefer to believe legends than investigate facts. Claire realized he was right, but she didn't want to give up. At least try. What do you have to lose? Silas thought for a few moments. All right, but when it goes wrong, I don't want you to feel guilty. The next day, Claire sought out Mr. Brooks during lunch hour. Mr. Brooks, I'd like to speak with you about a possible hire. We do need more people. Who do you have in mind? Silas Harrison. Mr. Brooks's face changed immediately. Claire, we've already talked about this. That man is trouble. Have you personally spoken with anyone who actually knew his work? Not second-hand stories, but people who worked side by side with him. I don't need to. His reputation speaks for itself. I spoke with them, and I discovered the stories going around don't tell the whole truth. Silas is an experienced worker who was always exploited by his previous bosses. Mr. Brooks seemed surprised by Claire's conviction. Even if that were true, Claire, I can't risk the harmony of the farm. The other workers won't accept working with him. What if I vouch for him? If I guarantee there won't be any problems? Would you risk your position here for a stranger? He's not a stranger. He's a man who deserves a second chance. Mr. Brooks studied her face for a few moments. You're very involved in this, Claire. Are you sure you're thinking with your head and not your heart? The question caught Claire by surprise. She hadn't stopped to analyze her own feelings towards Silas. I'm thinking with my conscience, Mr. Brooks, and my conscience says this man deserves an opportunity. All right, I'll give him a chance, but only because I trust your judgment. If there's any trouble, any complaint, he's gone the same day, and you'll have to deal with the consequences. Claire felt a mix of joy and nervousness. She had gotten what she wanted, but now she carried the responsibility of proving that Silas deserved the trust she had placed in him. When she told the news to Silas, he received it with a mix of gratitude and apprehension. "I hope you know what you're doing," he said. "If anything goes wrong, you'll pay the price along with me. It won't go wrong, you're better than you think you are. And what if the other workers don't accept me? Then we'll show them they're wrong." On Silas's first day of work at St. Sarah's ranch, the tension was palpable. Claire noticed the suspicious looks and the whispered conversations that stopped when he approached. Mr. Brooks assigned Silas to work in the field, taking care of fence maintenance and pasture irrigation. It was work he could do alone, minimizing contact with the other workers, at least at first. During the first week, Silas worked in silence, arriving early and leaving late, always keeping a respectful distance from his colleagues. Claire watched from afar, hoping everything would go well. However, small incidents began to happen. Tools disappeared and turned up in the wrong places. The irrigation system Silas had fixed would break mysteriously overnight. The other workers began to blame him for the problems, even without proof. "Ever since that man arrived, there's been nothing but trouble," Slim complained to Claire. "Just yesterday, a wrench I left in the shed went missing." "Did you see Silas take it?" she asked. "I don't need to see. Who else could it be? Any one of the other 20 people who work here?" Slim shook his head impatiently. "Claire, you're defending him without seeing the obvious. That man brought bad luck to the ranch." Claire realized some workers were deliberately creating problems to blame on Silas. It was subtle sabotage, but effective. One morning, she arrived at work and found Mr. Brooks visibly upset. "Claire, I need to speak with you. We had more problems last night. Someone left the pasture gate open and we lost 3 calves. And you think it was Silas?" He was the last person working in that area, and conveniently, the calves were found grazing near the house where he lives. Claire felt her stomach sink. She knew Silas would never do something like that, but the evidence was piling up against him. "Mr. Brooks, are you sure it was him?" "I'm sure I can't ignore these incidents any longer. I'll have to let him go. Give me 1 more week, please. Let me investigate better what's happening." Mr. Brooks sighed. 1 week, Claire. But if there's one more problem, any problem, he's gone, and you'll have to take responsibility. That night, Claire confronted Silas about the incidents. "Silas, I need you to be completely honest with me. Do you have anything to do with these problems that are happening?" He looked at her with a hurt expression. "Do you really believe I would do that after everything you've done for me?" "No, I don't believe it, but I need to hear it from you. I didn't touch any tools, I didn't leave a gate open, and I don't know how those calves ended up near my house. Someone is trying to frame me, and they're succeeding. Who do you think would be capable of doing this? Anyone who doesn't want me here, which is basically all the farm workers." Claire realized she needed to discover the truth before Silas lost his job, and she lost Mr. Brooks's trust. The next day, she decided to investigate discreetly. During the lunch break, she went to the shed where the tools were kept and carefully examined the area. She didn't find anything suspicious, but noticed there was a lot of activity there during the day. In the afternoon, she spoke with Mrs. Hattie, who, because she worked in the main kitchen, had a privileged view of who came and went from the different sectors of the farm. "Mrs. Hattie, have you noticed any strange activity in the last few days? People in places where they normally wouldn't be?" "Why are you asking, dear? There have been some problems, and I'm trying to understand what might be causing them." Hattie lowered her voice. "Look, I don't want to speak ill of anyone, but I've noticed that Maintenance Mike has been very agitated since that Silas arrived." "Agitated how?" "Always commenting that it's not right for someone like him to work here, that we should band together to send him away. Just yesterday, I saw him leaving the tool shed at a time when he had no reason to be there." Claire felt she was on the right track. Maintenance Mike was a long-time employee, respected, who would have credibility if he wanted to frame someone. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. That same afternoon, Claire decided to observe Mike more closely. During work, she made excuses to pass near the places where he was and noticed suspicious behavior. He seemed to always be checking if anyone was watching before doing his tasks. At night, she decided to do some discreet surveillance. She hid near the tool shed and waited. Around 11 o'clock, she saw a figure approaching furtively. It was Maintenance Mike. She watched as he entered the shed with a small flashlight. After a few minutes, He came out carrying something in his hands. Claire decided to follow him at a distance. Mike walked to the area where Silas worked during the day and deliberately threw some tools on the ground near the fence that Silas had repaired that afternoon. Then he carefully broke part of the irrigation system, making it look like the damage had been caused by carelessness. Claire had to control herself not to confront him right then. She decided she needed more evidence before making accusations. The next day, she discreetly sought out other long-time farm workers to better understand Mike's motivation. "Mrs. Edna, can I ask a personal question?" she said to the farm's most senior cleaning staff member. "Of course, dear." "Do you think Maintenance Mike has any problem with changes here on the farm?" Mrs. Edna seemed surprised by the question. "Why are you asking that?" "Just to better understand the dynamics among the workers. Look, Mike is a good man, but he's very jealous of his own work. When new workers arrive, especially if they're competent, he gets insecure. I've seen it happen before." "Insecure how?" "Afraid of losing his position, of no longer being seen as indispensable. He's worked here for 15 years and has always been treated as an important piece." Claire began to understand the motivation. Mike saw Silas as a threat to his position on the ranch, especially because Silas had demonstrated impressive technical knowledge in his first days on the job. That night she shared her findings with Silas. "So you believe me?" he asked with evident relief. "I've always believed you. I just needed proof to convince the others." "And what do we do now?" "We'll catch him in the act. Tomorrow night we'll set up a stakeout and document what he does." Silas hesitated. "Claire, this could cause a lot of trouble for you. If they find out you're helping me investigate a long-time employee, leave it to me. The important thing is to clear your name." The following night, Claire and Silas positioned themselves strategically near the areas where the problems usually occurred. Around midnight, Mike appeared again. This time he was bolder. Besides moving tools, he deliberately opened the gate to one of the smaller pastures and led a few calves out, directing them toward the area near Silas's house. Claire photographed everything with her phone, making sure she had clear evidence of the sabotage. The next day, she went to Mr. Brooks with the evidence. "Mr. Brooks, I need to show you something very important." She explained her entire investigation and showed the photos she had taken. Mr. Brooks was shocked to see the images of Mike deliberately causing the problems that had been blamed on Silas. "Claire, this is very serious. Mike has worked here for 15 years. Why would he do such a thing? Because he feels threatened by Silas's competence, and because he preferred to destroy an innocent man's reputation rather than deal with his own insecurity." Mr. Brooks studied the photos again. "I'll have to fire Mike, and I'll have to publicly apologize to Silas for the problems he suffered unjustly." "You'll do that?" "I have no choice. Justice demands it. And you did an excellent job investigating. It shows I was right to trust your judgment." When Silas was officially cleared and Mike was fired for sabotage, the atmosphere on the ranch changed drastically. The other employees, ashamed for having judged Silas unfairly, began to treat him with more respect. "Silas, we want to apologize," said Slim on behalf of the other workers. "We judged you without knowing the truth." "It's all right. I understand why you were suspicious," replied Silas with dignity. "No, it's not all right. We were unfair. We hope you can forgive us and give us a chance to get to know you better." Gradually, Silas began to integrate with the group. His experience and knowledge about farming and animal care impressed everyone. He was always willing to help and never showed resentment for the earlier judgments. Claire watched his transformation with pride. The suspicious, lonely man she had found passed out was becoming a more open and confident person. One afternoon, while they worked together vaccinating the cattle, Silas surprised her with an unexpected question. "Claire, why did you risk so much for me? Your position, your reputation? You could have lost everything." She stopped what she was doing and looked at him. "Because it was the right thing to do, and because I care about you." "Care about me how?" The direct question left her flustered. She had avoided examining her own feelings until that moment. "As a friend who cares about the happiness of another person important to her." Silas smiled for the first time since she had met him, a genuine smile that completely transformed his expression. "So we're friends. We're friends." But even as she said it, Claire knew her feelings for Silas were more complex than simple friendship. There was something in the way he looked at her, in the kindness with which he treated the animals, in the silent gratitude he showed every day. The following months were the happiest Silas had experienced in many years. He excelled at his work, earned the respect of his colleagues, and developed a genuine friendship with Claire. But beneath the surface, they both knew there were deeper feelings growing between them. The first clear sign came when Claire fell ill with a bad flu. Silas showed up at her house with soup he had prepared himself and took care of her for 3 days, refusing to leave her alone. "You don't have to do this," she said, her voice hoarse. "Yes, I do. You took care of me when I was a stranger. Now it's my turn to take care of you." His dedication during her illness stirred something deep within Claire. She realized she was falling in love with Silas, but she fought against these feelings for fear of the complications they might bring. When she recovered, the dynamic between them had subtly changed. There were longer glances, more frequent smiles, a growing intimacy that neither of them knew how to handle. It was during a particularly hot October afternoon that everything changed. Claire was helping Silas repair a broken fence when he got a small cut on his hand from the barbed wire. "Let me take care of that," she said, taking his hand to examine the wound. The touch of their hands created an electric tension between them. When she looked up, she found Silas watching her with an intensity that made her heart race. "Claire," he said softly. "What?" I think I'm falling in love with you." The honest, direct declaration left her speechless for a few moments. "Silas, I know this complicates everything. I know you might not feel the same, but I couldn't hide it anymore." Claire felt all the barriers she had built crumbling at once. "I'm falling in love with you too, and it scares me a lot." "Why?" "Because it changes everything. Our friendship, our situation at work, what people will think." "What if we didn't care what people think?" "It would be easier if it were just that." Silas gently held her face. "Claire, you saved me from a life of loneliness and rejection. You gave me the first real chance I ever had in life. If you want, we can face anything together." When he kissed her, Claire felt all her worries melt away. For a few moments there were only the two of them and the certainty that they belonged together. But reality soon returned. In the following days, some employees began to notice the change in their relationship. The comments were inevitable. "Claire is dating Silas," Mrs. Hattie whispered to another employee. "Is that wise? They work together, and he has that past. The girl is love-blind. She doesn't see the problems this could cause." Claire noticed the looks and comments, but decided she wouldn't let other people's opinions interfere with her happiness. Silas, however, was worried about the consequences for her. "Claire, people are talking. This could hurt you professionally." "Let them talk. We're not doing anything wrong." "But Mr. Brooks might not see it that way. What if he thinks our relationship interferes with work? Then we'll show him it doesn't." They kept their relationship discreet during work hours, always being professional and avoiding public displays of affection. But it was impossible to completely hide the happiness that emanated from them both. Mr. Brooks, who was no fool, soon realized what was happening. One morning he called Claire in for a talk. "Claire, I need to speak with you about your relationship with Silas." She braced herself for the worst. "Yes, sir." "Are you two dating?" "We are. Is that a problem?" "It could be, depending on how you handle the situation. I can't allow personal matters to interfere with work." "They don't interfere, Mr. Brooks. We're professionals during work hours." "For now, yes. But what if you argue? What if you break up? How would that affect the work environment?" Claire hadn't considered these possibilities. "I don't know, sir. I just know we're happy together, and it doesn't hurt our performance." "All right. I'll allow you to continue, but on one condition. At the first sign the relationship is affecting work, one of you will have to find a job elsewhere." "Understood." When Claire told Silas about the conversation, he grew even more concerned. "See? They're already making special rules because of us. That's not fair to you. Silas, stop feeling guilty for making me happy. Mr. Brooks is just being cautious, and that's understandable. But what if something goes wrong between us? You could lose your job because of me. Nothing will go wrong. How can you be so sure? Claire hugged him tightly. Because you're the most honorable man I've ever known, because we've overcome much bigger obstacles than these, and because I love you. It was the first time she had said those words out loud. Silas felt as if a tremendous weight had been lifted from his shoulders. I love you too, Claire, more than I ever imagined possible. Their relationship blossomed discreetly over the following months. Silas proved to be a thoughtful and caring boyfriend, always concerned with Claire's well-being. She, in turn, helped him overcome many of the insecurities he carried from his difficult past. One evening, while having dinner at home, Silas made an important revelation. Claire, there's something about me you still don't know. She felt a twinge of nervousness. What is it? I can barely read or write. I never had the chance to study properly. And why do you think that's important? Because one day you might grow tired of being with an uneducated man. Claire shook her head sadly. Silas, education isn't measured just by the number of years someone spent in school. You have a knowledge of life and work that many people with diplomas don't have. But I would like to learn more, to be able to read books, write letters. Then let's fix that. I can teach you in the evenings, if you want. Silas's eyes shone with an emotion she had never seen before. You would do that for me? I would do anything for you. From that night on, Claire began teaching Silas to read and write properly. She was impressed by his learning ability and dedication. Within a few months, he could already read simple newspapers and write short texts. You're a much better teacher than the ones I had at the orphanage, he said one night, after finishing writing his first letter. You're a much more dedicated student than many I've had. Silas's progress in his studies further increased his self-confidence. He began participating more in conversations at work and even offered suggestions for improving the ranch's processes. Mr. Brooks noticed the change and was impressed. Silas, your ideas about pasture rotation are very interesting. Where did you learn that? By observing and thinking about how to improve things, sir. Have you ever considered taking a technical course in agriculture? The suggestion took Silas by surprise. I never thought it was possible. With your practical experience and the theoretical foundation a course would give, you could become a very competent technician. That night, Silas shared the conversation with Claire, who was excited about the possibility. You should accept it would be an incredible opportunity. But the course is at night in Des Moines. How would I manage to go back and forth every day? We'll figure out a way. Perhaps Mr. Brooks will allow you to leave early on class days. And what if I can't keep up? It hasn't been long since I learned to read properly. Silas, you are one of the smartest people I know. I'm sure you'll manage. With Claire's support and Mr. Brooks's flexibility, Silas enrolled in the technical agriculture course. The first few months were challenging, but he dedicated himself tirelessly to his studies. Claire helped him with the more theoretical subjects, while his practical experience helped him quickly understand the applied concepts. Gradually, he became one of the most respected students in the class. Professor, I have a question about crop rotation, he said during a lesson. Go ahead, Silas. At the ranch where I work, I noticed that when we plant corn after legumes, the productivity increases significantly. Does that have to do with the nitrogen fixation you explained? The professor was impressed by the practical observation that perfectly complemented the theory. Exactly. You have a very keen eye for observing these phenomena in the field. Silas's reputation as a dedicated and observant student spread among the teachers. Some began using examples from his practical experiences to illustrate theoretical concepts for the other students. Meanwhile, at St. Sarah's Ranch, his position was becoming more and more consolidated. Mr. Brooks had increased his responsibilities and began consulting him on important decisions related to the property's management. Silas, what do you think about expanding our cattle raising to include a few head of buffalo? Asked Mr. Brooks during a meeting. It would be interesting, sir. Buffalo adapt well to our climate and are less susceptible to some diseases. but we would need to adjust our pasture management. Explain further. Buffalo trample the soil more than regular cattle. We would need to rotate the pastures more frequently, and perhaps invest in some areas with more resistant cultivated grass. Silas's detailed and practical analyses impressed Mr. Brooks more and more, who began to see him not just as an employee, but as a potential future partner. Meanwhile, the relationship between Silas and Claire deepened. They had found a perfect balance between personal and professional life, always maintaining respect and discretion in the work environment. One December night, as they walked through the pastures under the moonlight, Silas surprised Claire with a question she wasn't expecting. "Claire, have you ever thought about getting married? Marriage in general, or marrying you?" she asked with a smile. "Marrying me." The direct simplicity of the question was typical of him, but the emotion behind the words was evident. "Yes, I have thought about it. And you?" "I've thought about it every day since I fell in love with you. I want to build a life by your side, have children, grow old together. Even knowing it would mean more commitments, more responsibilities. Especially because of that. I want to have something that is truly mine, that no one can take away from me. And you are the most precious person who has ever come into my life." Claire stopped walking and looked at him. "So, are you proposing to me?" Silas knelt right there, in the middle of the pasture, holding her hands. "Claire Miller, will you marry me? I know I can't offer a luxurious life, but I can promise love, dedication, and loyalty for the rest of my life." "Yes, Silas Harrison, I will marry you." The marriage proposal brought a new energy to both of them. They began making plans for a simple ceremony, with only the closest friends from the ranch and some of Silas's classmates from his course. But the preparations also brought to the surface some of Silas's insecurities about his past. "Ask Claire, are you sure you want to associate your name with mine? My reputation could still harm you." "Silas, your reputation today is that of a hard-working, honest, and dedicated man. Anyone who truly knows you knows that. But what about the people who only know the old stories? Those people don't matter to our happiness. And your family? Will they accept a son-in-law with no past, no family?" Claire hesitated for a moment. She had mentioned Silas to her parents, who lived in Cedar Rapids, but hadn't yet told them about the engagement. "My parents will love you just as I love you. And if they don't love you at first, they'll learn to love you when they get to know the amazing man you are." However, when Claire finally told her parents about the engagement over the phone, the reaction wasn't exactly what she expected. "Honey, are you sure you know this man well enough?" asked her mother, Mrs. Martha. "I do, Mom. We've been together for over a year." "But what is his family like? Where is he from? What does he do for a living?" "He's a farmhand, Mom. He's taking a technical course and he's a wonderful person." "Claire, you're an educated woman, a veterinarian. Are you sure you want to tie yourself to someone without the same education?" The question hurt Claire deeply. "Mom, education isn't just measured by diplomas. Silas is one of the wisest people I've ever known." "I'm not doubting his character, honey. I'm just worried if you're compatible in the long run." "We're more compatible than many couples who met in college." When Claire told Silas about the conversation, he wasn't surprised. It was to be expected. "Parents always want the best for their children, and on paper I really don't seem like the best for you." "On paper, maybe not, but in real life, in our real life, you're perfect for me." "Do you think they'll change their minds when they meet me?" "I'm sure of it." To prove her point, Claire invited her parents to visit her at the ranch and meet Silas in person. She wanted them to see the hard-working, dedicated, and caring man she had fallen in love with. The visit was scheduled for a weekend in January. Claire was nervous, but Silas was even more anxious to make a good impression. "What if they don't like me?" he asked the night before Claire's parents arrived. "They will. They just need to know the real you." "But I don't know how to talk to educated people. What if I say something wrong?" "Silas, just be yourself. That's why I fell in love with you." On Saturday morning, when Claire's parents' car arrived at the ranch, Silas was visibly nervous, but determined to show his best self. "Dad, Mom, this is Silas," said Claire proudly. Silas extended his hand respectfully. "It's a pleasure to meet you, mister. Arthur, Mrs. Martha, it's an honor to meet Claire's parents. Silas's formality and politeness positively surprised Claire's parents, who had expected to find someone more rustic. The pleasure is ours, Silas, replied Mr. Arthur. During lunch, Silas answered Claire's parents' questions honestly, but without going into painful details of his past. He talked about his current work, his studies, and his plans for the future. "So you're taking a technical course in agriculture?" asked Mrs. Martha. "Yes, ma'am. I've always worked in the fields, but I wanted more theoretical knowledge to complement the practical experience." "And how are your studies going?" "Very well, thank you. The grades are good, and the teachers say I have a knack for relating theory to practice." "That's very important," agreed Mr. Arthur. "Experience without knowledge is limited, but knowledge without experience isn't much good either." During the afternoon, Silas made a point of showing them his work on the ranch. He took them to see the pastures, explained crop rotation, and demonstrated his knowledge of animal management. "Impressive how you know every detail of how the ranch works," commented Mr. Arthur. "When you enjoy what you do, you end up paying attention to everything, sir." "And what are your plans for the future?" "Finish the technical course, keep working here if Mr. Brooks allows it, and build a family with your daughter." Silas's sincerity began gradually winning the trust of Claire's parents. Mrs. Martha noticed how he looked at Claire with genuine admiration and treated her daughter with affection and respect. On Sunday morning, before they left, Claire's parents asked to speak with Silas alone. "Silas, we want to tell you something," said Mr. Arthur. "Yes, sir. When Claire told us about you, we were worried. Not because we doubted your character, but because we wanted to be sure you two were compatible. And are you sure now?" "I am. I see that you truly love our daughter and that you are a hard-working and honest man. That's what matters most." Mrs. Martha added, "Silas, you have our blessing to marry Claire, and you can count on us as family." The approval of Claire's parents removed the last barrier Silas felt about the marriage. He finally allowed himself to believe he deserved all the happiness he was finding. The wedding preparations moved ahead at a fast pace. They decided to have a simple ceremony at the ranch itself at the end of March, when Silas would finish his technical course. Mr. Brooks offered his big house for the party, and all the ranch employees mobilized to help with the organization. It was as if the whole community had adopted Silas as family. "Silas, who will be your best man?" asked Claire during the preparations. "I don't know. I never had close friends before coming to work here." "And now? Is there a colleague you consider special?" Silas thought for a few moments. "Slim. He was one of the first to give me a second chance after that trouble with Mike, and he's always treated me with respect since then." "Great choice. I'm sure he'll be honored." When Silas invited Slim to be his best man, the man was visibly moved. "Silas, I'm the one who's honored. You know, at first I didn't trust you." "Slim, that's in the past. What matters is you gave me a chance when you learned the truth. You're an example to all of us. You show it's possible to overcome any difficulty with work and dignity." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The week before the wedding was full of emotions. Silas graduated from the technical course as one of the top students in his class, receiving special praise from the teachers for his dedication and performance. "Silas, you should consider taking a higher education course in agricultural engineering," suggested the lead instructor. "With your experience and theoretical foundation, you would have a lot to contribute to the field." The suggestion planted a seed in Silas's mind, but he decided to focus first on the wedding and stabilizing his new life. The day before the wedding, while they were making the final preparations, Claire had a moment of reflection about the whole journey they had traveled together. "Silas, do you remember how it all started, when I found you passed out near the fence? How could I forget? It was the day my life completely changed. Who would have thought that wounded, distrustful man would become the love of my life? Who would have thought a brave veterinarian would risk everything to save a stranger with a bad reputation? It wasn't bravery, it was instinct. My heart recognized yours before my mind even understood what was happening. Claire, I want you to know that you saved me in every possible way. Not just physically that day, but emotionally, socially. You gave me a life I never thought was possible to have. You saved me too, Silas. You showed me that true love exists and that it's worth fighting for. The wedding day dawned sunny and perfect. The ranch was decorated simply but with great care. Wildflowers adorned the tables, and an arch of branches had been set up near the property's artificial lake. Claire wore a simple cream-colored dress that had belonged to her grandmother, and Silas wore a simple suit borrowed from his Arthur. Both were radiant with happiness. When the time for the ceremony arrived, all present, ranch hands, Silas's classmates from the course, some neighbors, and Claire's parents, gathered in a semicircle near the lake. The officiant, a local pastor and friend of Mr. Brooks, conducted the ceremony with simplicity and emotion. We are here today to celebrate the love between Claire and Silas, two hearts that found each other and decided to walk through life together. When it came time for the vows, Silas took a piece of paper from his pocket. They were the first words he had written by himself, without Claire's help. Claire, when we met, I was a lost man, rejected, with no hope of finding happiness. You welcomed me when everyone else rejected me, believed in me when I doubted my own worth, and loved me when I thought I didn't deserve love. His voice trembled slightly, but he continued, I promise to work every day to be worthy of your love. I promise to protect and care for you as you have cared for me. I promise to be your companion, your friend, and your love for the rest of my life. You taught me that I am worthy of being loved, and I want to spend the rest of my days showing how grateful I am for that. Many of the guests were visibly moved by the sincerity of Silas's vows. Claire, in turn, had prepared her own words. Silas, you taught me that a person's true worth isn't in their past, but in their character. You showed me that courage is getting up every day and fighting for a better life, even when the world seems against you. She paused, trying to control her emotion. I promise to stand by your side in every battle life brings us. I promise to believe in you even when you doubt yourself. I promise to love the amazing man you are and support all your dreams. You turned my life into an adventure of love and hope, and I want to live that adventure with you forever. When the pastor declared them husband and wife, the kiss that followed was accompanied by warm applause from all present. It was impossible not to be moved by the genuine happiness radiating from the new couple. During the reception, which was simple but full of joy, many of the guests made a point of sharing with Silas how his story had inspired them. Silas, your journey taught me that it's never too late to start over, said Mrs. Hattie, and I'm ashamed to have judged you without knowing you. Mrs. Hattie, what matters is that we all learned together, and now we're a family. Mr. Brooks made a point of making a special toast to the couple. Silas and Claire, you have taught us that true love is the kind that makes us better people. Silas, you arrived here carrying the weight of a difficult past, but through your work, dedication, and Claire's love, you have become one of the most respected men I know. Claire, you showed us that having the courage to fight for what is right is always worth it. May you be very happy. During the reception, Silas had a special conversation with Slim, his best man. Slim, I want to thank you for giving me a second chance when we discovered the truth about Mike. Silas, I'm the one who should be thanking you. You taught me not to judge people by their appearance or by second-hand stories. That made me a better person. And now we are truly friends. We're brothers, Silas. Real family. The party continued late into the night, with music, dancing, and lots of conversation. It was clear how Silas had earned not just acceptance, but the genuine affection of that entire community. When the newlyweds finally retired to their new home, Claire had moved into Silas's house, which they had renovated together. Both were exhausted, but completely happy. We did it, said Claire, hugging her husband. Did what? Built something beautiful together. Life, a family, a future. And this is just the beginning, my wife. The word wife sounded like music to both their ears. In the months following the wedding, the couple's life settled into a harmonious routine. Silas continued working on the ranch, now with even more responsibilities due to his technical diploma. Mr. Brooks had significantly increased his salary and began consulting him on all important decisions for the property. Silas, I'm thinking of expanding our planting area. What do you think about planting soybeans in the north section? That's a good idea, sir, but I suggest we do a complete soil analysis first. I can arrange that through contacts I made during the course. Perfect, and what about the schedule? If we start the preparation now, we can plant at the ideal time and have a good harvest for next year. Silas's well-founded technical suggestions constantly impressed Mr. Brooks, who began to nurture a special plan for the future. At home, Claire and Silas developed a routine of studying and planning together. He had decided to follow his old teacher's suggestion and prepare to try for a spot in an agronomy engineering program. "Are you sure you want to go to college?" asked Claire one night while helping him with math exercises. "I am. I want to specialize even more. And who knows, maybe one day have my own property." "Our own property," she corrected with a smile. "Our property. I like how that sounds." The dream of having their own property had become a concrete goal for the couple. They began saving religiously and studying rural financing opportunities. During this period, Silas also began to get more involved with the local community. He offered his technical knowledge to small producers in the region, helping them improve their farming practices. "Mr. Jose, you're planting the corn too close to the trees. This reduces productivity because the plants compete for light and nutrients," he explained during a visit to a neighboring small farm. "And how do I fix that, Silas?" "Leave a distance of at least 5 meters from the trees, and if possible, plant a smaller crop in that area like beans or sweet potato." Silas's free guidance quickly made him a reference in the region. Small producers began seeking him out regularly for advice, which further increased his self-esteem and sense of purpose. "Claire, I never thought I'd one day be recognized as someone who has something important to teach," he said one night, after an afternoon helping 3 different producers. "You always had knowledge, Silas. You just needed the opportunity to share it, and the confidence to believe my knowledge had value. And now you do. Now I do." Silas's reputation as a competent technician and trustworthy person spread quickly. In August, just 5 months after the wedding, he received an unexpected proposal. "Silas, I need to talk with you," said Mr. Brooks during the lunch break. "Yes, sir. I have a proposal to make. How would you like to become my minority partner on the ranch?" Silas nearly choked on his coffee. "How's that, sir?" "You have demonstrated exceptional competence. Your suggestions have significantly improved our productivity. I'm thinking of offering you a 10% stake in the ranch in exchange for your technical knowledge and dedication." "Mr. Brooks, I don't know what to say." "Say you accept. You deserve this opportunity, and I need a partner I can trust completely." When Silas told Claire about the proposal, she was just as emotional as he was. "Silas, this is incredible. You've become a ranch partner." "I still can't believe it. From an unqualified employee to a partner in less than 2 years. And you earned every step of that journey. None of this would have happened if you hadn't believed in me first. It would have happened. Maybe it would have taken longer, but your worth would have been recognized eventually." Silas's professional rise brought significant changes for the couple. They were able to accelerate their plans to own property, and Silas began to be consulted by other ranch owners in the region. In December, a year after the wedding, they received news that would complete their happiness. Claire was pregnant. "Are you sure?" asked Silas, holding the medical test with trembling hands. "Absolutely. We're going to be parents." Silas hugged her and spun her around the kitchen, both laughing and crying with joy. "Our son will have everything I never had," he said, his voice full of emotion. "Our son will have parents who love each other and fight for their dreams. That's the most important thing. And he'll grow up knowing he can be anything he wants in life." Exactly. Claire's pregnancy brought even more unity to the couple and the entire ranch community. Everyone mobilized to help and show affection for the growing family. "Claire, do you need anything special?" Mrs. Hattie would ask daily. "I'm fine, Mrs. Hattie. Thank you for your concern. It's just that we already consider this baby a grandchild for all of us here on the ranch." And that was truly how the whole community felt. Silas had become not just a respected employee, but a beloved member of the extended family that was St. Sarah's Ranch. In March, during one of the prenatal checkups, Claire and Silas found out it would be a boy. A boy. exclaimed Silas when the doctor gave them the news. "And what name are you thinking of?" asked the doctor. Silas and Claire exchanged glances. They had already talked about it. "Julian," they said together. "Julian Harrison Miller," Silas added. "A beautiful name." "Julian means youthful or downy-bearded," explained Claire. "We thought it fitting for a son who will be born surrounded by so much love and support." During the months of the pregnancy, Silas prepared intensely to be a father. He read every book he could find on baby care and educated himself about child-rearing. "Claire, I want our son to have all the educational opportunities I never had. And he will. But I also want him to learn the values you have: hard work, honesty, perseverance. And that he learns that the past doesn't determine the future, that it's always possible to start over and build something better." In September, Julian came into the world during a smooth delivery at the Des Moines hospital. Silas was present, holding Claire's hand and crying with emotion when he heard his son's first cry. "He's perfect," he whispered, looking at little Julian in Claire's arms. "He's our masterpiece," she agreed, exhausted but radiant. "But our family is complete." Julian's arrival brought indescribable joy to the entire ranch community. Silas proved to be a dedicated and loving father, caring for his son with a tenderness and patience that even surprised Claire. "I've never seen a father so involved," commented the nurse during one of Julian's routine checkups. "Silas has always been very dedicated to everything he does," explained Claire. "With Julian, it wouldn't be any different. It's rare to see that kind of dedication these days." Indeed, Silas was determined to be for Julian the father he himself had never had. He participated in every moment, changing diapers, giving baths, waking up during the night to help with feedings. "Silas, you need to rest too," Claire would say during the sleepless nights. "I want to be part of everything. I don't want to miss a single moment of our son's childhood. He'll remember how much you loved him, even if he's too little to understand it now. That's what matters to me, that he never doubts the love we feel for him." As the months passed, Julian grew into a healthy and happy child. Silas made a point of taking him to see every corner of the ranch, introducing him to the animals and explaining about the farm work. "Look, Julian, these are the cows. One day you'll understand how important they are to our lives," he'd say, carrying the baby through the pastures. Claire watched these scenes with her heart overflowing with love. Seeing Silas as a father made her realize even more the depth of the man she had married. When Julian turned 1, Silas made an important decision. He applied for the agronomy engineering entrance exam at the State University of Ames. "Are you sure this is the right time?" asked Claire. "With Julian so young, it will be harder to balance studies with work and family." "That's exactly why I need to do it now. I want to set an example for him that it's never too late to pursue our dreams. And I fully support you. We'll find a way to make it all work." Silas's acceptance into the university was celebrated by the entire ranch. Mr. Brooks made sure to adjust the work schedule so he could attend classes, and Claire reorganized her routine to care for Julian during her husband's absences. "Silas, you're an example to all of us," said Mr. Brooks. "You show that with dedication and hard work, any goal is possible." "I'm just following the path life has shown me, sir. And it's a path that inspires many people." During his first year of college, Silas faced significant challenges. Balancing work, studies, and family required strict organization and a lot of support from Claire. "Sometimes I think I won't make it," he said, one especially difficult night after a day of work, a university exam, and a sleepless night because Julian was teething. "You will make it. We're a team, remember. When one is weak, the other gives strength. And when both are weak, then we remember everything we've already overcome together and find the strength to carry on." Their mutual support proved essential for both to maintain balance. Claire took on more responsibilities with Julian and the house, while Silas dedicated himself intensely to his studies during his free time. In his second year of college, Silas stood out as one of the best students in his class. His professors were impressed by his ability to relate theory and practice, a result of his years of experience in the field. "Silas, you should consider participating in research projects," suggested his soils professor. "Your practical experience combined with theoretical knowledge would be very valuable." "It would be an honor, Professor. but I need to see if I can balance it with my work and family routine. We can arrange flexible schedules. Talents like yours shouldn't be wasted. Participating in research projects opened new horizons for Silas. He began developing studies on pasture optimization, a subject he knew deeply from practical experience. "Claire, I think I've found my academic calling," he said after presenting his first research paper. "Tell me." "I want to specialize in sustainable pasture management. It's an area where I can combine everything I've learned in practice with scientific knowledge." "And that makes you happy?" "Very happy. I feel I can make a difference, help other producers improve their practices." Silas's enthusiasm for research was contagious. He began spending more time at the university, always with Claire's full support, who understood the importance of that moment for the family's future. Julian, who was now 2 years old, began to show fascination for his father's work. Whenever possible, Silas would take him to visit the university or to see the experiments he was conducting on the ranch. "Daddy, what are you doing?" Julian would ask, with his still childish but curious language. "I'm studying how to make the cow's grass grow better," Silas would explain patiently. "Can I help?" "Of course you can. You can help me by observing the plants." These father-son moments were precious to Silas, who made a point of involving Julian in his activities whenever appropriate. In his 3rd year of college, Silas received a proposal that would once again change the course of his life, a research grant that would allow him to dedicate himself fully to his studies. "Silas, we have a research grant available for work on sustainable pasture management," the graduate program coordinator informed him. "I would be the ideal candidate. Professor, it's an incredible opportunity, but I work on the ranch and have family responsibilities. The grant offers an amount that would allow you to dedicate yourself exclusively to your studies, and the project would be developed in partnership with rural properties in the region." Silas talked at length with Claire about the proposal. "It's a unique chance to specialize even further," he explained, "but it would mean leaving my partnership on the ranch and depending solely on the research grant. What's the amount of the grant?" "It's not much, but it would be enough for us to get by, and it would only be for 2 years. Silas, if this is what you want, we have to try. We always find a way to make things work." "Are you sure? Julian is still small and you'd have to work more to supplement our income." "I'm sure. Your success is our success, and Julian will be proud to have a researcher for a father." After conversations with Mr. Brooks, who fully supported the decision and assured that there would always be a place for Silas on the ranch, he accepted the research grant. The 2 years of his master's degree were intense and productive. Silas developed innovative pasture management techniques that resulted in a significant increase in productivity and a reduction in environmental impact. "Silas, your results are impressive," said his advisor during the thesis defense. "You managed to increase productivity by 30% while reducing the use of chemical inputs." "Professor, that was only possible because I combined practical knowledge with rigorous scientific research. That's exactly what American agriculture needs, people who understand both the field and science." The master's thesis defense was a moment of great emotion. Claire, Julian, now 4 years old, and all the friends from the ranch were present to support him. "Is Daddy a doctor now?" Julian asked after the presentation. "Not exactly, son. Daddy is a master. Doctor would be the next step," Claire explained. "And are you going to take that next step?" she asked Silas. "For now, I want to apply what I've learned, maybe in the future." After completing his master's degree, Silas returned to St. Sarah's Ranch as a partner and technical consultant. His now scientifically recognized expertise made him a regional reference in sustainable management. "Silas, could you teach a course for local producers?" asked the local Farmers Bureau. "It would be my pleasure. I've always wanted to share knowledge with those who really need it." The courses taught by Silas quickly became in high demand. His ability to explain complex concepts in a simple and applicable way impressed the participants. "Professor Silas, your techniques increased my productivity by 25%, said a small producer after implementing the suggestions. "I'm not a professor. I'm just someone who enjoys sharing knowledge," Silas would reply humbly. "To us you are a professor, and one of the best." Silas's reputation as an expert solidified quickly. He began receiving invitations to give lectures in other regions and for consultations on larger properties. "Claire, I think the time has come for us to make an important decision," he said one December night. "What decision?" "To open our own consulting firm. With the demand we have, we could achieve total financial independence." "Do you think it's viable?" "I think so. And it would be a dream come true, working with what I love, with you as my partner." "Me as a partner?" "Of course. You understand veterinary science. I understand pasture management. Together we could offer a complete service for rural producers." The idea of having their own company excited Claire as much as it did Silas. They began carefully planning the venture, studying economic feasibility and the potential market. "What will we call the company?" asked Claire. "How about Harrison and Miller Consulting?" "Too formal. How about something closer, more human?" "Integrated Rural Solutions." "Better, it conveys the idea that we offer complete solutions." In January, 5 years after their marriage, they officially established the company Integrated Rural Solutions. The office would initially operate from home, and services would be provided directly at the client's properties. "Silas, are you sure you want to leave the security of the ranch to venture into your own business?" asked Mr. Brooks, who, although supportive of the decision, was worried about the risk. "I'm sure, sir, but I hope to maintain our partnership. The ranch will always be my first client." "You'll always have our support, and I'm sure you'll be very successful." The company's first year was challenging but promising. Silas and Claire worked intensely to establish the business's reputation and win clients. Julian, now 5 years old, watched with curiosity the development of his parents' company. "Mommy, why do you work so much?" he asked one afternoon. "Because we're building something of our own, son. A business that one day could be yours too if you want." "And if I don't want to be a farmer?" "Then you'll be whatever you want to be. The important thing is that you always have options." The answer perfectly reflected the philosophy Silas and Claire had adopted for raising Julian, to give him every possible opportunity while respecting his own choices. By the end of the first year, the company already had 15 regular clients and a waiting list for consultations. The success exceeded all expectations. "Claire, we need to hire more people," said Silas after analyzing the year's numbers. "Is it already time?" "We're turning down work because we don't have the capacity to handle it. It's a good problem to have." They hired 2 recently graduated technicians, creating a work environment based on the same values of respect and opportunity that had been fundamental in their own journeys. "I want our company to be a place where talented people have a chance to grow," Silas explained to the new employees, regardless of their backgrounds. "How did you build all this?" asked one of the technicians, impressed with the structure the company had achieved in such a short time. "With a lot of hard work, mutual support, and never giving up on our dreams," replied Claire. The company's second year was marked by expansion and recognition. Silas was invited to join regional technical committees, and Claire became a consultant for several producer cooperatives. "Daddy, are you famous?" asked Julian, after seeing Silas being interviewed on local television about sustainable farming techniques. "I'm not famous, son. I'm just someone who works with something I love and who can help other people. When I grow up, I want to help people too. You can help people doing any profession, Julian. What's important is to do what you do with love and dedication." The conversations between father and son were always full of lessons about values and life perspectives. Silas made a point of imparting to Julian the importance of hard work, honesty, and perseverance. In the company's third year, they received an unexpected proposal. A multinational agribusiness company wanted to buy part of their business to expand operations in the interior of São Paulo. "What do you think?" asked Claire, after the meeting with the multinational's representatives. "It's an opportunity for very rapid growth, but also for losing control over our own business. What if we negotiate terms that allow us to keep our autonomy?" "We can try, but I don't want our company to lose the human touch it has always had." After months of negotiation, they struck a deal that allowed them to maintain full operational control while gaining access to resources for expansion throughout the southeast region. "We got the best of both worlds," celebrated Claire. growth with autonomy, and now we can help many more producers across a much larger area. The expansion brought new challenges, but also confirmed that the work philosophy they had developed worked at any scale. In 2 years, the company had offices in 5 cities and more than 20 employees. Julian, now 8 years old, began to show interest in both the technical and administrative sides of the business. "Daddy, can I go with you on the farm visit tomorrow?" he would often ask. "Yes, you can, but you'll have to behave and pay attention to learn." "I always pay attention when you explain about the plants and the animals." The technical visits with his father became a tradition Julian loved. He asked smart questions and showed an understanding surprising for his age. "Your son has a lot of potential," commented one of the clients after a visit Julian had accompanied. "He asked questions some adults don't ask. He's always been curious. And he grew up hearing talk about agriculture," explained Silas with pride. During this period of professional growth, Silas and Claire also dedicated themselves to personal and family growth. They bought a small rural property near Des Moines, where they built their dream home. "Finally our own land," said Silas the day they received the keys to the property. "Our home, our family, our company, our land. We have everything we ever dreamed of. And we built it all together from scratch. The best part is we built it based on love and solid values." The 16-hectare property became not only their residence, but also a laboratory for experiments and a demonstration site for clients. Julian grew up playing among agricultural experiments and farm animals. "Claire, there's something I've been thinking about for a while," said Silas one evening as they watched Julian playing in the backyard. "What is it?" "I think it's time we gave Julian a little brother." The suggestion took Claire by surprise, but in a positive way. "You really want another child?" "I do. Our family is stable, we're doing well financially, and Julian would be a wonderful big brother." "I've been thinking about it too. I think Julian would really benefit from having a little sibling." 2 months later, they discovered Claire was pregnant again. The news was received with joy by the whole family and community of friends. "Julian, how do you feel knowing you're going to have a little brother?" asked Claire. "Very happy. I'll teach him everything about plants and animals like Daddy taught me." "And you'll take good care of him?" "I'll always protect him. Big brothers protect the younger ones, right?" Julian's maturity, even at 9 years old, impressed everyone around him. Silas saw in his son a confirmation that it was possible to break negative cycles and create healthier, more balanced generations. During Claire's second pregnancy, the company continued to grow. They opened a technical training center on the property, offering practical courses for farmers from across the region. "Silas, you've become exactly what you always dreamed of being," commented Mr. Brooks during the training center's inauguration. "An educator and a transformer of regional agriculture. And I achieved it with the woman I love by my side and by building a solid family. I couldn't ask for more from life. You deserve every achievement. They are the result of a lot of hard work and dedication." In November, Sarah was born, a healthy girl who completed the Harrison Miller family. Silas was as emotional at the birth as he had been with Julian. "Now our team is complete," he said, holding Sarah in his arms. "2 wonderful children, our thriving company, our home, our dreams come true," agreed Claire. "And it all started with you saving a stranger who had fainted near a fence." "Actually, I think we saved each other." Julian proved to be an exemplary big brother, always attentive to Sarah's needs and proud of his role in the family. "Daddy, will Sarah work with us when she grows up?" he asked one day. "If she wants to, son. But she can choose any profession that makes her happy. And if she doesn't want to be a farmer, then we'll support her choice, just as we always will with your choices too." The education Silas and Claire gave their children was based on the same philosophy that had guided their own lives. Hard work, honesty, respect for people, and always the pursuit of learning and growth. 10 years after their marriage, Silas became a national reference in sustainable pasture management. He was invited to speak at scientific conferences, and his company became a model of success for other rural entrepreneurs. "Claire, sometimes I still can't believe everything we've achieved," he said one Sunday afternoon, watching Julian teach Sarah to recognize different types of plants. "I always knew you were special, from that very first day. You saw potential where no one else did. I saw a man of character who just needed an opportunity. And you gave me much more than an opportunity. You gave me a family, a purpose, a life. You did the same for me. You showed me what true love is. That night, while putting the children to bed, Silas reflected on the entire journey they had traveled together. "Julian, Sarah, do you know how much Daddy and Mommy love each other?" he asked during the bedtime story. "A lot," the children replied in unison. "And do you know that you are the most precious things we have in life?" "We know, Daddy," said Julian. "And we love you very much too." "Family is the most important thing there is," said Sarah in her 2-year-old voice, repeating something she heard constantly. After putting the children to bed, Silas and Claire sat on the porch of their home, looking over the property they had built together under the soft moonlight. "Silas, do you regret anything in our story?" "The suffering you went through because of me at the beginning. The moments I doubted if I deserved your love. The lost years before I met you. I don't regret a thing, not even the hard times. They were necessary for us to become who we are today." "And who are we today?" "We are a strong family, a successful business, people who make a difference in other people's lives. We are what we always dreamed of being. And what else do we dream for the future? To see our children grow up happy and fulfilled, to continue helping farmers, to grow old together on this land that is ours. Simple and perfect dreams." At 43, Silas had become exactly the man he always had the potential to be. From a marginalized farm worker to a respected businessman, from a lonely person to a dedicated family man, from functionally illiterate to a nationally recognized expert. Claire, at 38, had built alongside him not just a family, but a legacy of work and dedication that inspired everyone around them. "Do you think our story can inspire other people?" asked Silas. "I think it already does. How many people change their minds about snap judgments after learning our story? How many employees at our company had opportunities they wouldn't have had elsewhere?" "That's true. I hope Julian and Sarah carry that philosophy into their own lives. They will. We're planting the seeds every day." In the following years, the company continued to grow and established itself as a benchmark in sustainable rural consulting. Silas completed his doctorate in agricultural engineering, always with Claire's full support and the children's curiosity. "Is Daddy really going to be a doctor now?" asked Sarah when Silas defended his thesis. "Yes, he is, honey, a doctor in agriculture." "And will he cure sick plants?" "In a way, yes. I'll help plants grow healthier." The thesis defense was a moment of celebration for the entire extended family. Company employees, clients, friends from the ranch, everyone was there to support Silas in this new achievement. "Dr. Silas Harrison," said his advisor after the thesis was approved, "your research on the recovery of degraded pastures represents a significant contribution to sustainable agriculture." "Professor, this title represents much more than academic knowledge. It represents proof that anyone can achieve any goal if they have support, determination, and opportunities." After his doctorate, Silas was invited to teach at the same university where he studied. He accepted the opportunity to be a part-time professor, keeping up his other activities. "Professor Harrison, you have a different teaching style from the other professors," commented a student after a class on pasture management. "It's because I teach from practical experience. I lived everything I'm teaching before I studied it. That makes a big difference. We understand better when we see the professor has actually lived it." Silas's classes quickly became the most sought after in the program. His ability to connect theory and practice, combined with his personal story of overcoming adversity, deeply inspired the students. Julian, now 15, was already showing a clear interest in following in his father's footsteps, but in his own innovative way. "Dad, I want to study agricultural engineering like you, but with a focus on technology applied to farming." "Excellent idea, son. The agriculture of the future will depend a lot on technology. I want to develop automated systems that help small producers be more efficient." "It makes me so proud to hear that. You're thinking about using knowledge to help people, just like we've always tried to do." Sarah, at 12, showed interest in both veterinary medicine and business administration. "Mom, can I study both things I'm interested in?" Of course you can, honey. You might even create something new by combining the two fields. What kind of new thing? Maybe veterinary practice management or animal health consulting for large properties. The possibilities are endless. The children's education was always the absolute priority for Silas and Claire. They made sure both Julian and Sarah had access to the best schools and opportunities, but always with an awareness of values and social responsibility. Kids, you have privileges that many children don't have, Silas would regularly explain. That comes with the responsibility to use those privileges to do good. Like Dad does with the courses for small producers? Asked Sarah. Exactly. We use our knowledge and position to help those in need. In 2029, 15 years after their marriage, Silas and Claire decided to expand their social activities even further. They created a foundation dedicated to offering free technical training for vulnerable rural workers. Claire, I want our foundation to be a place where people like I used to be can find real opportunities. And what kind of training will we offer? Basic farming techniques, adult literacy, animal handling skills, rural entrepreneurship courses. A second chance for people who never had a real first chance. Exactly. The Harrison Miller Foundation quickly became a benchmark in rural training. Within 2 years, it had already trained over 500 rural workers, many of whom secured better jobs or started their own businesses. Dr. Harrison, you changed my life, said one of the graduates during a course completion ceremony. Now I can support my family with dignity. You changed your own life. I just offered the tools. But without those tools, I'd still be in the same situation as always. Stories like this repeated constantly, confirming for Silas that he had found his true purpose, using his experience and knowledge to transform lives. Julian, now studying agricultural engineering at the same university where his father taught, began developing innovative projects for small rural producers. Dad, I developed an app that helps producers calculate the ideal amount of fertilizer for their crops. How does it work? They input data about the soil, the climate, and the crop they want to plant, and the app calculates the technical recommendations. Brilliant. This could democratize access to technical consulting. That's exactly the idea. I want small producers to have access to the same information as large farmers. The app developed by Julian became a regional success, used by hundreds of small producers. It was evident he had inherited not only his parents' intelligence, but also their sense of social responsibility. Sarah, studying veterinary medicine, also demonstrated the same commitment to social causes. Mom, I want to do an outreach project offering free veterinary care for small-scale breeders. That's a wonderful idea, honey. How do you plan to organize it? Through the university and our foundation, we could create a mobile veterinary clinic. I'll talk with your father. I think we can incorporate this project into the foundation's activities. The mobile veterinary clinic became a reality 6 months later, serving small-scale breeders throughout the region. Sarah was actively involved in the project, always accompanied by licensed veterinarians. Honey, you're following the same path that guided us, using knowledge and skills to help those in need, observed Claire with pride. I learned from the best teachers, replied Sarah with a smile. In 2032, at 51 years old, Silas received one of the greatest recognitions of his career. He was elected president of the National Sustainable Agriculture Council. Dr. Harrison, your election represents the recognition of the entire profession for your contribution to national agriculture, said the outgoing president during the inauguration ceremony. This position represents an opportunity to further expand our reach in terms of education and social transformation, replied Silas in his inaugural speech. During his tenure as president of the council, Silas implemented national technical training programs and created partnerships with universities to offer distance learning courses for rural workers. Claire, I think I've finally found the way to multiply the impact I can have on people's lives. How? Through the council, I can influence public policy and create programs that reach thousands of people across the country. Your boy, who was fainting from hunger and thirst, became the president of a national council. And your brave girl, who saved a stranger, became the unofficial First Lady of Sustainable Agriculture. They laughed together at the surreal journey they had traveled. Julian, now a graduate in agronomic engineering and pursuing a master's in agricultural technology, had become a partner in the family business, bringing technological innovation to the services offered. "Dad, how about we create a division of the company focused specifically on technological solutions for small producers? Explain this idea better. Soil moisture sensors, low-cost automated irrigation systems, simplified management apps, accessible technology to democratize precision agriculture. Julian, this could be the natural evolution of everything we've built, a way to bring advanced knowledge to those who need it most." The new division of the company, led by Julian, quickly gained national recognition for developing accessible and efficient agricultural technologies. Sarah, newly graduated as a veterinarian, decided to complete her residency in large animal clinic, specializing in care for rural properties. "Dad, I want to specialize in the same field as Mom, but with a focus on reproductive and nutritional management." An excellent specialization, and it perfectly complements the work we do. The idea is to integrate animal health with the pasture management techniques you developed. Sarah, you're thinking about integrated solutions. That is the future of rural consulting. At 22, Sarah already demonstrated the same holistic and innovative vision that characterized the entire family. In 2035, the company Integrated Rural Solutions celebrated 15 years of existence. To commemorate, they organized a large event on the property, bringing together clients, employees, partners, and beneficiaries of the foundation. "Claire, do you remember when we dreamed of having our own company?" asked Silas during the event. "I remember it like it was yesterday. And look what we've built. A company with over 100 employees, a national presence, a foundation that has already trained more than 2,000 people. And the most important thing, a united and happy family. That was always our priority. The rest was a consequence." During the event, many people made a point of sharing how the company and the foundation had impacted their lives. "Dr. Harrison, Mrs. Miller, you saved my family from poverty," said a former student of the foundation who now owned his own small property. "What I learned here gave me dignity and a future." "You saved your own family with hard work and dedication," replied Silas. "We only offered guidance. But without that guidance, I never would have succeeded." Stories like this multiplied throughout the event, confirming that the legacy Silas and Claire were building went far beyond business success. That night, after all the guests had left, the family gathered on the house's porch for a special conversation. "Dad, Mom, Julian and I wanted to talk to you about something important," said Sarah. "What is it, dear?" "We've decided we want to continue your work but expand the social impact even further." Julian added, "We want to transform the company and the foundation into a rural technical teaching institute, a place where people can get professional training and also develop social innovation projects." Silas and Claire were deeply moved by their children's proposal. "Are you sure you want to take on this responsibility?" asked Claire. "We're sure," replied Julian and Sarah in unison. "Then let's make it happen," said Silas, "but on the condition that you always uphold the values that guided us: hard work, honesty, respect for people, and a commitment to social transformation." "You can be sure we will uphold them," guaranteed Julian, "and we'll expand these values to reach even more people," added Sarah. The creation of the Harrison Miller Rural Technical Institute was announced the following year. The institute would offer complete technical courses, continuing education programs, an incubator for innovative projects, and free technical assistance programs. "Claire, our children have surpassed our boldest dreams," said Silas during the Institute's launch ceremony. "They learned from us that true success is the kind that transforms lives, not just accumulates wealth. And now they will multiply that impact in ways we could never have done alone." The Institute quickly became a national reference in rural technical education. In its first year, it received over 1,000 applicants for 300 spots, demonstrating the enormous demand for this type of training. Julian took over the technical coordination of the Institute, developing innovative curricula that combined theory, practice, and technology. Sarah was put in charge of the animal health area and the rural extension programs. "Kids, you are creating opportunities I never had when I was young," said Silas during a visit to the Institute's facilities. And ensuring that others don't go through the hardships you went through, added Julian. But mainly showing that knowledge should be in the service of social justice, Helena added. In 2038, at 56, Silas decided to dedicate himself fully to teaching and research, gradually transferring his business responsibilities to his children. Claire, I think it's time we gave Gabriel and Sarah more space to take full command. Do you think they're ready? More than ready. They've already exceeded our expectations in every way. And what are we going to do with all the free time we'll have? Travel, enjoy life, spend time with the grandchildren when they come. The mention of grandchildren made them both smile. Julian was engaged to a college classmate, also an agronomist, and Sarah was dating a veterinarian she met during her residency. Our grandchildren will grow up in a world very different from the one we knew when we were young, reflected Claire. A world with more opportunities, more knowledge, more social awareness. Thanks to the work of people like us, but mainly like our children. Each generation improves the world a little. That's how progress happens. In December 2038, Julian married Brooke, his college classmate. The ceremony was held at the family property, the same place where Silas and Claire had married 20 years earlier. Dad, thank you for teaching me that true love is based on respect, partnership, and shared values, said Julian during his wedding speech. Son, you learned by watching, and now you're applying those lessons in your own life. Brooke and I want to build a family just like ours, united, hard-working, committed to the common good. Julian's happiness at his wedding reminded everyone of the joy Silas and Claire had found in each other. It was clear the family values were being successfully passed to the new generation. 6 months later, Sarah announced her engagement to Justin, the veterinarian she had met during her residency. Mum, I want you to know I've found in Justin the same kind of companionship you found in Dad. That's wonderful, honey. There's nothing more important in life than a partner who supports us and inspires us to be better people. Justin not only supports me, but he shares the same ideals about using our profession to transform realities. Then you've chosen well, just like I chose well when I decided to save your father that afternoon. Sarah's wedding was scheduled for the following year, also at the family property. The tradition of celebrating important moments at that special location had been firmly established. In 2040, Julian and Brooke gave the Harrison Millers their first grandchild, Caleb, a healthy boy who brought renewed joy to the whole family. Grandpa Silas, Grandma Claire, said Julian as he presented the baby, I present to you the next generation of the family. Silas held his grandson in his arms with the same emotion he had felt when holding Julian for the first time. Caleb Harrison Miller, he murmured, you will grow up knowing you can be anything you want in life. And you'll grow up knowing your family will always be here to support you, Claire added. Caleb's arrival brought a new dynamic to the family. Silas discovered he was a dedicated and loving grandfather, always ready to tell stories and teach about nature. Grandpa, tell the story again of how you and Grandma met, Caleb would ask when he was 4 years old. Once upon a time, there was a man who was lost in life and a brave young woman who decided to help him, Silas would begin, telling the story in a way suitable for a child. And did they live happily ever after? They are living happily ever after, and they will keep living as long as there is love between them. Grandpa's stories became a tradition that Caleb loved, and later his other cousins did too. Sarah and Justin married in 2041 in a beautiful ceremony that celebrated not only the couple's love, but the entire growth journey of the Harrison Miller family. In 2042, they had their first daughter, Grace, a girl born to make the family's happiness even more complete. Now we have a pair of grandchildren, said Claire, holding Grace in her lap. Caleb will have a little cousin to protect and teach. Just like Julian protected and taught Sarah, observed Silas, and just like we all protect and teach each other. The family had grown and multiplied, but the core values remained the same: love, hard work, honesty, and commitment to the common good. In 2045, at 63, Silas decided to write a book telling his life story. The goal was to inspire other people going through difficulties similar to those he had faced. Claire, I think our story can help a lot of people not to give up on their dreams. Are you going to tell everything? Even the hardest parts? Especially the hardest parts. That's where the most important lessons are. Then write it. But write it with the same honesty you've always lived by. The book, From Abandonment to Love, a story of overcoming and transformation, was released the following year and became a publishing phenomenon. Thousands of people identified with Silas's journey and found inspiration for their own struggles. Dr. Harrison, your book changed my perspective on the problems I'm facing, said a reader during a book signing. That's good. The goal was exactly that, to show that it's always possible to start over. The part that struck me the most was when Mrs. Clare risked everything to defend you. Claire taught me that true love is the kind that fights for what it believes in, even when others don't understand. And that inspired me to fight for my own relationships and dreams. Conversations like this were repeated at dozens of events across the country. The book had touched a sensitive point in society, the need for second chances and the importance of unconditional love. The book's success led Silas and Claire to be invited to speak at universities, companies, and social events all over Brazil. They always accepted, seeing these opportunities as ways to multiply their message of hope. Claire, when I was young and lost, I never imagined that one day I'd be speaking to audiences of thousands of people about overcoming and love. And when I was a newly graduated veterinarian, I never imagined I'd save a man who had fainted and that it would completely change my life. Life has those kinds of surprises. Sometimes what seems like an ending is actually a beginning. And sometimes a simple decision, made out of compassion, transforms destinies. In 2048, the family welcomed 2 more additions. Julian and Brooke had their second daughter, Mia, and Sarah and Justin had a son, Noah. The family home filled with joy and the noise of children on Sundays, when everyone gathered. Grandpa Silas, Grandma Claire, tell us the family story, the children would ask, now forming a small audience. Once upon a time, a man and a woman who met when they needed each other most, Silas would begin. And together they built a big, happy family, Claire would finish. And do we all live happily ever after? Asked Mia, the youngest of the bunch. We are living happily ever after, my dear. Each day, building our happiness together. The family gatherings became sacred traditions, moments when the family's values were reinforced and mutual love was celebrated. Caleb, now 8 years old, was already showing interest in the family's work, always asking questions about plants and animals during visits to the Institute. Grandpa, when I grow up, can I work at the Institute too? You can, my grandson, but first you need to study hard and discover what you really like to do. I like taking care of plants and animals, like you. Then maybe you'll be the next generation to carry on our work, but only if that's what makes you happy. The grandchildren's education followed the same philosophy that had guided Julian and Sarah's upbringing, to offer every possible opportunity, but always respecting individual callings. In 2050, Silas turned 68 and Claire 65. They decided to throw a big party to celebrate not just their birthdays, but the entire journey they had traveled together. Claire, do you regret anything in all these years together? Absolutely nothing. Every difficulty we faced brought us to where we are today. Not even the moments when people judged us. Not even those. They taught us to value even more those who accepted us as we are. And the moments of financial uncertainty at the start of the company. Not even those. They taught us the importance of dreaming big, but building step by step. So would you say our story was perfect? I would say our story was real. And what's most beautiful about real life is that it isn't perfect, but it is true. The birthday party brought together over 300 people. Family, former and current employees, alumni of the Institute, clients, friends of decades. It was a celebration not just of lives, but of a legacy of social transformation. Silas and Claire, you taught us that true success isn't measured by accumulated wealth, but by the number of lives transformed, said Julian during his speech at the party. And that true love is the kind that makes us want to be better people, added Sarah. Thank you for giving us not just life, but purpose, they said together. During the party, many people made a point of sharing how the example of Silas and Claire had influenced their own lives and choices. Dr. Harrison, your story taught me that it's never too late to start over. At 50, I went back to school, and today I'm an agricultural technician thanks to your institute, said one alumna. Mrs. Miller, seeing how you fought for what you believed in gave me the courage to stand up for my own convictions, said another person. You proved that a family can be a transformative force in society, added a former employee. The tributes continued all night, each one confirming that the legacy of Silas and Claire went far beyond what they themselves had imagined. That night, after all the guests had left, Silas and Claire sat again on the porch of their house, in the same spot where so many important conversations had happened over the years. Claire, if I could go back to the beginning, knowing everything we would go through, would I do it all the same? I would do it all exactly the same. And you? Me too. I wouldn't change a single detail of our story. Not even the fact that you were passed out near that fence that March afternoon. I especially wouldn't change that. It was the moment that defined the rest of our lives. And what if I had just passed by, without stopping to help? But you didn't just pass by, and do you know why? Why? Because you have a heart too good to ignore someone's suffering. It was impossible for you not to stop. And you were impossible not to love, once I knew the incredible man you are inside. They remained silent for a few minutes, watching the stars in the clear country sky. Silas, what do you think is the most important lesson of our story? That true love has the power to completely transform people's lives. Not just romantic love, but love for family, for work, for justice, for your neighbor. And that we should never judge a person by what we hear about them. You have to truly know someone to form a fair opinion. And that it's always possible to start over, no matter what the past has been. And that true success is the kind that includes other people, that creates opportunities for those in need. In short, our story teaches that love and honest work can overcome any obstacle and create a legacy that lasts forever. In 2055, at 73, Silas received the title of Professor Emeritus from the State University of Ames in recognition of his contributions to agricultural education and research. Professor Silva, in your 15 years of teaching, you have graduated over 3,000 professionals and supervised 150 research projects, said the Dean during the ceremony. Dean, every student who passed through my classes took with them not just technical knowledge, but also the conviction that our profession must be in service to society. And that is evident in the work your alumni are doing across the country. Many have followed in your footsteps, creating social projects and rural inclusion programs. Claire, who watched the ceremony from the front row, felt immense pride for the man with whom she had decided to build a life. The lost boy she had found unconscious had become one of the country's most respected educators. Julian and Sarah, now fully in charge of the institute and the company, had expanded their activities to 8 U.S. states. The Harrison Miller Institute had become a national benchmark for rural technical education and social inclusion. Dad, you planted the seeds for all of this when you decided you wanted to study and grow, said Julian during a family conversation. Actually, son, the one who planted the first seeds was your mother when she decided to care for a stranger. And now those seeds have become a giant forest, observed Sarah. The Institute has already trained more than 15,000 people. And every life that's changed goes on to change other lives. That's how good multiplies. Caleb, now 15, had decided he wanted to study agricultural engineering like his grandfather and father. But with one difference, he wanted to specialize in urban agriculture and food sustainability. Grandpa, I want to work with community gardens and vertical farming in cities. Excellent choice, my grandson. The agriculture of the future needs to feed a growing urban population. And I want that agriculture to be accessible to poor people, just like you did in the countryside. Caleb, you're thinking about the next stage in the evolution of our work, taking the same principles we applied in the countryside to the cities. Grace, at 13, showed an interest in scientific research and wanted to study biology with a focus on plant genetics. Grandma Claire, I want to develop more resistant plants to help farmers have fewer losses. What a beautiful goal, my dear. Science in service of those who work the land. And I want those plants to be accessible to small producers, not just big farms. Grace, you are carrying forward our family's values. Knowledge to serve, not to dominate. Mia and Noah, still young, already showed curiosity about the family's work and loved to play at the Institute on weekends. Grandpa, why do you help so many people? Mia asked once. Because when we help someone, our own life becomes happier, explained Silas. And because Grandma Claire taught me that we get back all the good we do for others. So if I help everyone, will I be very happy? You will be very happy, my granddaughter. And you will make a lot of people happy too. The simple conversations with their grandchildren were always opportunities to pass on values and life philosophy in a natural and loving way. In 2058, Silas and Claire decided to take a special trip, revisiting all the important places of their history together. They started at St. Sarah's Ranch, where they met. Mr. Brooks had passed away 2 years prior, but his children kept the property running and always welcomed Silas and Claire with affection. This is where it all began, said Claire, standing near the spot where she had found Silas unconscious. And this is where I learned I deserved to be loved, Silas added. They also visited St. Jude's farm, where Silas had faced some of the worst injustices of his youth. The current owner, the son of the former owner, made a point of receiving them and apologizing for the mistakes of the past. Dr. Harrison, my father deeply regretted how he treated you. Before he passed, he always said he had been unfair. That's in the past. What's important is that we learned and evolved. Do you forgive the mistakes we made? I forgive. And more than that, I am grateful, because it was those mistakes that taught me how to treat people with dignity. They visited the university, where Silas studied and later taught, the first house they lived in together, the church where they got married, the hospital where Julian and Sarah were born. Every place holds an important part of our story, Claire observed during the trip, and in all these places, the constant was our love and our determination to build something good. Do you regret anything we did or didn't do? I only regret not having met you sooner, all the years we lived apart before we found each other. But maybe the timing wasn't right yet. Maybe we needed to go through everything we went through to be ready for each other. You're right. Our story happened at the right time, in the right way. The journey through memories reinforced for both of them the certainty that they had built a full and meaningful life together. Back home, they found a surprise prepared by the family, a celebration party for their upcoming 40th wedding anniversary. Dad, Mom, 40 years of marriage is quite an achievement these days, said Julian. And 40 years of love, partnership, and building together, added Sarah. You are our inspiration to believe that true love exists and is worth fighting for, said their sons-in-law and daughters-in-law. Grandpa Silas, Grandma Claire, will you be together forever? Asked Caleb. Forever, my grandson, because we decide every day to keep loving each other. How do we decide to love? By choosing to do good for each other, forgiving mistakes, supporting dreams, and always putting family first. The 40th wedding anniversary celebration also became a reflection on the values that had sustained the couple's union for so long. That night, alone again on the porch, Silas and Claire took stock of 4 decades together. Claire, if someone had told me 40 years ago that I would have a family like ours, I wouldn't have believed it. And if someone had told me that the man who fainted would become my husband, the father of my children, and my life partner, I would have laughed at them. Life is really full of good surprises for those who are open to receiving them, and for those who aren't afraid to bet on people's potential. Claire, I love you today more than I loved you when we got married. I love you more each day too, because every day I discover a new reason to admire you. And what's today's reason? Today I admire you for having become the grandfather our grandchildren deserve. Affectionate, wise, present, dedicated. And I admire you for continuing to be the courageous woman who fell in love with me when no one else believed in me. I will always believe in you, Silas, until the last day of our lives. And I will always love you, Claire, with the same intensity as the first day. The year 2060 marked a new phase in the lives of Silas and Claire. At 78 and 75 years old, respectively, they decided to dedicate themselves fully to their grandchildren and volunteer activities. The Institute and the company were consolidated under the competent management of Julian and Sarah. The new generation had not only maintained the family legacy, but expanded its impact exponentially. "Kids, you've surpassed all our dreams," said Silas during a family meeting. "We just continued what you started," replied Julian. "No, you created something new and greater, and that fills us with pride. The Institute now serves the entire country. We have international partnerships, and we've already trained more than 50,000 people," reported Sarah. "And most importantly, we've kept the family values in everything we do." Caleb, now 20 and studying agricultural engineering, had developed an innovative urban agriculture project that was being implemented in several state capitals. "Grandpa, my community vertical gardens project already benefits more than 20,000 urban families." "Caleb, you're solving a problem we didn't even imagine when we started, how to bring agriculture into the cities. And you're maintaining the social focus that has always guided our family," observed Claire with pride. At 18, Grace had been accepted to 3 state universities to study agricultural biotechnology. "Grandma, I want to develop seeds that are more nutritious and resilient, but that farmers can reproduce themselves." "What a wonderful project, my dear. Science in service of producers' autonomy." "Exactly. I want small farmers to not depend on big companies for quality seeds." Mia and Noah, now teenagers, were also beginning to define their interests and callings. "Grandpa Silas, I want to be a teacher like you were," said Mia. "That's wonderful, my granddaughter. The world always needs good teachers. But I want to teach poor children so they can have opportunities they might not otherwise get." "Mia, you've perfectly understood the role of education, to create opportunities for those who need them most." Noah showed an interest in veterinary medicine and the care of large animals. "Grandpa, I want to be a veterinarian like Grandma Claire." "And what attracts you to veterinary work?" "I like taking care of animals, and I want to help small ranchers who can't afford expensive treatments." "Noah, you're thinking exactly how your grandma thought when she was young." The continuity of family values through the generations was clear in the grandchildren's choices and aspirations. During this period, Silas decided to write a second book, this time focused on the lessons learned about education and social transformation. "Claire, I want to record everything we've learned about shaping people and creating opportunities." "Will it be a book about education?" "It will be a book about hope, about how every person can make a difference in the lives of others, and about how small actions can generate big transformations." Seeds of Transformation, Education as a Tool for Social Change was published in 2061 and quickly became required reading in pedagogy and social work courses across the country. "Dr. Harrison, your book is changing how educators think about their social role," said a professor during a lecture. "Professor, educating has always been a political and social act. There is no neutral education." "How so?" "When we educate, we are choosing what kind of society we want to build, whether we include or exclude, whether we create opportunities or maintain privileges. And what is each educator's responsibility? To ensure that knowledge is a tool for liberation, not domination." Silas's lectures on transformative education became highly sought after by universities and departments of education. In 2062, the family welcomed 2 more additions. Julian and Brooke had their 3rd child, Peter, and Sarah and Justin had their 2nd daughter, Lily. The family's Sunday dinner table had to be enlarged again to accommodate everyone. "Grandpa Silas, now we have so many grandchildren," Caleb observed joyfully. "And each one of you is a treasure to us," replied Silas. "We'll have to tell the family story in chapters so everyone can pay attention," Claire joked. "Or each of the older grandchildren can tell it to the younger ones," suggested Julian. The idea of passing down the family history from generation to generation was embraced by all. Caleb and Grace became the main storytellers for their younger cousins. Once upon a time, there was a grandpa who was lost in life and a brave grandma who decided to save him, Caleb would begin when it was his turn to tell. And they fell in love, and built a big, happy family that helps lots of people, Grace would add. And we are all part of that story, they would finish together. The simple yet profound narrative planted the seeds of family values in the younger children. In 2065, Silas and Claire celebrated their 82nd and 79th birthdays, respectively. The gathering was more intimate, just with immediate family, but no less meaningful. "Silas, we got to see our great-grandchildren grow up healthy and happy," said Claire, watching the 5 children playing in the garden. "And we got to see that our legacy will continue for many generations." "What do you think is the most important part of what we built?" "Family. Everything we did professionally was a consequence of the solid family we built. And the family was a consequence of the love we decided to cultivate every day. Claire, you saved much more than one life that afternoon. You saved future generations that didn't even exist yet. And you showed me it's worth betting on people, even when everyone says it's not." That evening, they made a point of talking individually with each child and grandchild, sharing words of love and wisdom. "Julian, you became the son we always dreamed of having, hard-working, honest, dedicated to family and others. Dad, everything I am I learned by watching you. Now you teach your children the same way, not with words but by example. You can be sure I will do that. Sarah, your sensitivity and competence have always impressed us. You are a natural leader and a good person. Mom, you taught me that leadership is service, not power. And you applied that lesson in everything you've done in life. And I will pass that on to my children too." The conversations with the grandchildren were equally moving, each one reinforcing family bonds and values. "Caleb, you have the gift of innovating while keeping your feet on the ground. That is rare and precious. Grandpa, I learned from you that innovation without social purpose is useless." "Exactly. Use your intelligence to do good." "Grace, your determination to use science to help people reminds me so much of your grandmother when she was young." "Grandma, you taught me that knowledge is responsibility. And you are honoring that responsibility." At the end of 2065, Silas had a minor health issue that took him to the hospital. It wasn't serious, but it served as a reminder that time is precious. "Claire, this scare made me think about some important things." "What things?" "I want to be sure I've said everything I needed to say to our family. Silas, our children and grandchildren know perfectly well how much we love them and how proud we are of them. But I want to leave something more concrete, a kind of emotional testament." "What do you have in mind?" "Letters. A letter for each child, each grandchild, each great-grandchild. Words they can keep forever." Claire loved the idea and decided to do the same. During the following months, they dedicated themselves to writing deep and loving letters for each family member. In the letter for Julian, Silas wrote, "My son, you taught me that it is possible to break negative cycles and create better generations. Your generous heart and brilliant mind are gifts you knew how to use for good. Continue being this man of integrity and dedication who fills me with pride every day." For Sarah, Claire wrote, "My daughter, you have the same courage that led me to save your father that afternoon, but multiplied by a wisdom I didn't have at your age. Use that combination to continue transforming lives and leading by example." For Caleb, Silas wrote, "My grandson, you represent the perfect synthesis of the previous generations. You have the practicality of the country, the theory of the university, and the social heart of the family. Your future is bright because you understood that true success is the kind that includes others." The letters became true family treasures, documents each person would keep forever as a reminder of their grandparents' love and wisdom. In 2067, Silas and Claire took one last great trip together. They visited all the social projects they had inspired or supported over the years. They went to the Northeast to visit cooperatives using techniques developed by the Institute. They visited urban communities where vertical farming projects were thriving. They saw rural schools that had adopted educational methodologies based on their books. "Claire, our life has borne fruit in places we never imagined. And people we've never met are living better because of things we did. That's immortality, isn't it? How so? Continuing to exist through the good we've done, even after we're no longer physically here. Silas, we are already immortal, through our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and all the people our story has touched. The trip reinforced for both of them the feeling of duty fulfilled and a legacy well built. Back home, they began dedicating themselves almost exclusively to family and moments of contemplation. Family Sundays became even more special, true celebrations of life and love. Grandpa Silas, tell us again how you and Grandma met, asked Lily, the youngest of the great-grandchildren. Once upon a time there was a man who was lost and a woman who had a very good heart, Silas would begin, adapting the story for the girl's age. And did they help each other? They saved each other, my dear. And they lived very happily, building a large and close-knit family. Like our family. Exactly like our family. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this story of overcoming and true love. Do you believe it's possible to completely transform a life through honest work and unconditional love? Leave your sincere comment about the journey of Silas and Claire, and don't forget to give your like if the story touched your heart. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories like this one.